It was a bright Saturday morning at LAX, the start of what should have been a perfect family vacation. The Reyes family had planned this trip for months. David Reyes, a software engineer originally from the Philippines, had been working overtime for nearly a year, saving every extra dollar to surprise his wife and 2 children with a vacation to Hawaii. His wife, Amelia, a schoolteacher known for her calm demeanor and gentle strength, had packed the children's bags days in advance. Their 2 kids, Zach, age 14, a shy tech-savvy teen, and Lily, age 8, full of sunshine and imagination, could barely contain their excitement. They had talked endlessly about surfing, luau's, and swimming with dolphins. For them, this was more than a vacation. It was a dream come true, a reward for surviving long nights of work, school, and the endless grind of American life as immigrants just trying to make it. But they had no idea that their dream was about to be tested by something cruel, ugly, and all too familiar: the sting of racism hiding behind a badge. As they walked through the bustling terminal, wheeling their modest luggage toward the TSA checkpoint, the Reyes family blended in with dozens of other travelers. Fathers with coffee cups, mothers fussing over passports, kids with neck pillows, all heading off on summer adventures. Then came a voice, sharp and commanding, that sliced through the air like a knife. "Hey, you, sir, step aside right now." It came from Officer Brad Mitchell, a tall, broad-shouldered TSA cop known among airport staff for his short fuse and heavy hand. He locked eyes on David like a predator who had found his prey. David, confused, stopped in his tracks. "Me?" he asked, gesturing toward himself. "Don't play dumb," the officer snapped. "You're acting suspicious. Where are you from?" David answered cautiously, "I live here." "I'm an American citizen. Is something wrong?" That was all it took for Officer Mitchell's tone to sharpen. "Don't lie to me. What's in your bags?" The children clutched their mother's arms, eyes wide. Other travelers began to slow down, their curiosity piqued by the confrontation. Amelia stepped forward, trying to reason with the officer. "Sir, we have nothing to hide. We're just on vacation." But Officer Mitchell sneered and pointed at her, barking, "Ma'am, stay back or I'll have you detained for interfering." It wasn't just the words that stung, it was the look in his eyes. That look that said you don't belong here. That look that every immigrant parent fears their child might see and internalize. It was happening, right in front of everyone. Officer Mitchell insisted they be pulled aside for a random search, but it wasn't random. He zeroed in on their passports, their clothes, even the small Philippine flag patch on David's backpack. One by one, he unpacked their bags, tossing aside folded clothes and carefully wrapped gifts as if they were garbage. Zach's Nintendo Switch was dropped on the table, shattering its screen. Lily's stuffed dolphin was ripped open as the officers searched it for contraband. Amelia tried to remain calm, but her voice cracked when she asked, "Why are you doing this to us?" The officer replied coldly, "Because people like you know how to smuggle things." The words landed like a slap. Gasps rippled through the crowd now gathering nearby. A woman began recording on her phone, whispering, "This is wrong." A young airport janitor nearby, Jamal, watched silently, his jaw tightening. He had seen this officer harass others before, but this felt worse, more targeted. David stood frozen, humiliated, his arms outstretched while Mitchell barked orders at him like a criminal. It felt like the world had stopped. But a storm was coming, because someone was watching, someone who wasn't just another traveler. Up on the second floor of the terminal, hidden behind tinted glass in the airport operations office, Assistant Director Michelle Donovan was observing everything on surveillance. She had been called in for a random systems audit and just happened to glance at the monitor showing Checkpoint B. What she saw made her stomach turn. Michelle was no stranger to law enforcement protocol. She had spent 20 years in airport security, and her father had been a decorated police chief. But this was abuse. Clear, calculated, targeted. She picked up the radio and spoke in a clipped, urgent tone. Pull body cam feed from Officer Mitchell at Checkpoint B now. Her assistant hesitated. Ma'am? Now, she repeated, eyes locked on the screen. Michelle didn't know who this family was, but she knew corruption when she saw it, and she wasn't about to let it slide, not under her watch. Down below, the Reyes family was on the verge of tears, but a spark had been lit. This wasn't just an incident, it was about to become a reckoning. Down on the terminal floor, David tried to stand tall despite the humiliation tightening around his chest like a vice. His son Zach looked up at him, confused and scared, while Lily clutched Amelia's hand so tightly her fingers turned red. The chaos around them didn't slow. Travelers stopped, stared, whispered. A couple of them recorded the scene. One mother in line pulled her child closer, whispering something inaudible with fear in her eyes, not of the Reyes family, but of the officer yelling at them. Officer Mitchell, puffed up with false authority, walked around the Reyes family like a wolf circling its cornered prey. "Tell me again why you're really here," he barked. David, voice shaking, replied, "Sir, we're just going on a vacation to Hawaii. I can show you the tickets." Mitchell snapped his fingers at a nearby TSA agent. "Scan everything. We'll see about that." Then, louder so the surrounding crowd could hear, "These people think they can just waltz through security with no consequences." That line pierced through David's chest. These people, not this family, not this man, not these travelers, number these people. In the security room above, Michelle Donovan watched it all unfold on the monitor. Her blood boiled. She could feel every second of that family's anguish like fire in her bones. She didn't need more proof. The officer's tone, the unnecessary escalation, the racial overtones. It was a textbook case of abuse of power. "Get me a direct line to airport legal counsel," she ordered. Her team scrambled into action. "Pull every incident report Officer Mitchell has filed in the last 6 months," she added. She turned to her aide. "I want to know if there's a pattern. We may be looking at a civil rights violation." Meanwhile, back at Checkpoint B, a shift was beginning to take place. More and more travelers began to speak up. A middle-aged woman stepped forward. "I've been watching from the start. They weren't doing anything wrong." Officer Mitchell snapped at her. "Step back before I charge you for obstruction." A young man with a backpack held his phone high. "I'm live streaming this, man. You better be careful." A ripple of discomfort ran through the TSA line. The officer turned, clearly unnerved, but he doubled down. "All of you, back away or I shut this terminal down." That's when Amelia Reyes, heart pounding, voice trembling but resolute, stepped forward. "My children are watching this. Is this what you want them to remember about this country? That no matter how hard we work, we're still just suspects because of our skin?" Her voice cracked, but her words echoed through the terminal. It wasn't loud, but it was powerful. It struck something inside the hearts of those watching. And in that moment, David placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "It's okay," he whispered. "They're going to see us stand." At that very instant, Jamal, the janitor who had been watching silently from the sidelines, stepped forward. "I work here. I've seen this guy harass people before. Every time it's someone who looks like them. You think no one notices, but we do." Jamal's voice, steady and clear, cut through the tension like a hot blade. And then others began to speak. "I've got video too. I saw them get singled out. This isn't right." One by one, strangers became witnesses. The airport that had felt so isolating seconds ago was turning into a stage for justice, and it was all being recorded. In the operations center, Michelle's phone rang. It was her superior, Deputy Director Calvin Harris. "What the hell is going on at Checkpoint B?" he demanded. "Social media's blowing up. We've got people tagging the airport in live streams." Michelle's voice was calm. "I've got it under control. But sir, we need to act fast. I've seen enough. This officer is a liability. I recommend immediate suspension pending investigation." There was a long pause on the other end. Then, "Do it. And keep me updated." Michelle hung up and radioed Airport Command. Escort Officer Mitchell from his post immediately. Body cam will be collected. Rights of the Reyes family must be restored, publicly. Back at Checkpoint B, just as Mitchell was about to detain David under a false claim of resisting, two uniformed officers approached from behind. "Officer Mitchell," one said sharply, "step away from the travelers. You're relieved of duty." The color drained from Mitchell's face. "What? You can't—" "This is a direct order," the officer repeated. "You're under internal investigation." The terminal erupted in murmurs. Cameras kept rolling. Amelia pulled Lily close, tears finally spilling down her cheeks, not from fear but from release. Zach looked up at his father again, but this time it wasn't fear in his eyes. It was pride. Jamal, the janitor, nodded silently toward David before walking away, his part in the story done but never forgotten. Officer Mitchell was led away, red-faced and muttering about liberal witch hunts and cancel culture, but the sun cast golden rays over the wide expanse of the airport terminal as travelers bustled from gate to gate, rolling their bags, chasing connections, or embracing loved ones in tight hugs. The Mendoza family stood near Terminal C. Lena Mendoza, a composed Filipino woman in her 40s. Her husband, Aaron, a Black American high school principal with a calming voice, their two teenage kids, Malik and Ella, and their 73-year-old grandfather, Lolo Ramon, who wore a pressed barong Tagalog, his weathered hands gripping his passport with quiet dignity. It had been 2 days since Officer Brad Jenkins, the airport cop with a reputation for petty power trips, had first harassed the family, detaining Lolo Ramon for no legitimate reason, accusing him of carrying a falsified passport, and humiliating him in front of dozens of onlookers. The viral video from that encounter was now nearing 10 million views online, and backlash was mounting. But despite the media attention, Jenkins wasn't done. He now began subtly trailing the family inside the terminal, whispering to other security personnel, making calls on his radio, eyes narrowed like a hunter preparing a trap. Lena, having grown up in a family that experienced martial law and injustice back in Manila, felt her old instincts kick in. She motioned to Aaron, whispering that something didn't feel right. Meanwhile, Lolo Ramon sat silently, sensing the tension, staring across the terminal as if he were seeing ghosts of past oppressors in Jenkins' eyes. At that moment, another presence entered the story, Tiffany Rivers, a young investigative journalist with a reputation for exposing corruption in law enforcement. She had been following the viral case and recognized the Mendoza family from afar. Slipping behind a large advertisement board, she began recording discreetly with her camera. Jenkins, unaware he was being watched, approached a fellow TSA agent and muttered, "Delay them at security. Flag something on their bags. I want them grounded." It was the final straw. Tiffany's camera captured every word. Meanwhile, Lena had pulled out her phone and began live streaming, narrating what had happened since their first encounter with Jenkins. Viewers flooded the stream, commenting in real time, tagging news outlets, local congresspeople, and civil rights organizations. As the Mendoza family approached the TSA checkpoint, Jenkins ordered the agents to pull their bags aside. But just as the TSA officer reached for the family's carry-on, a voice shouted, "Stop! I've seen enough!" It was Captain Dominique Rivera from the airport's Internal Affairs Division, arriving with 2 officers and a court order in hand. Jenkins tried to protest, but Dominique held up her badge, stating coldly, "You're being suspended pending investigation for misconduct, racial profiling, and abuse of authority." The terminal erupted in applause as passengers cheered. Tiffany stepped forward, identifying herself and offering the footage she'd captured. Jenkins' face paled as the truth closed in from all directions. The Mendoza family, eyes filled with tears and pride, turned to each other, this time not in fear but in vindication. Yet even as the cop was led away, Lena whispered to Aaron, "This isn't just about us. It's about all the families like ours." And they walked forward toward their gate, toward freedom, toward justice, while the world kept watching.